Okay, so we're remembering we just finished this question. We got rid of this idea of doing table of values. It's long, it's tedious. I have to know about negatives times negative, making a positive and all that jazz. And we went to this much cooler, much neater, much more grade 10-ish way of doing things. Notice that there's basically 3 steps though. The first step is to determine your b value and your m value. Your second step is to plot your b value, and your third step is to apply the rate triangle. Remember, this is what creates the rate triangle. This is the rate triangle, and it comes from moving over and up or over and down, depending if it's positive or negative. So this is the method we're going to use. Let's flip over. Okay, so things are getting more interesting in the terms of the equation. The process doesn't change. So here's the can you imagine doing this with a table of values? Look at the number. It's horrible. That would really be ugly to do with a table of values. You'd have decimals flying all over the place. But if we do it using slope, slope is going to be rise over run. And in this case, it's a negative 3 over 4. Now let's talk about that for a minute. We've discussed this before. We've talked about the fact that if you have a fraction that's negative, it's the same as putting the negative in the top, or it's the same as putting the negative in the bottom. And that, all of those are equal. One of them is easier to work with than the other. For slope, this one. Putting the negative in the top makes life so much easier because then what you do is you just move left to right and then either up or down. It makes everything easier. So when you have a negative outside the entire fraction, let's take that negative and put it with the top. It would still be right if you put it with the bottom because a negative divided by a positive is a negative and a positive divided by a negative is a negative, but this one's the easiest one to work with. So I'm going to change this to negative 3 over 4. That's a very subtle difference, but it's a big difference. That negative is with the 3 now. Okay, so I know my slope. The next thing I really want to know is my b value. Well, my b value is plus 5 here. So that means it's going to cross at 0, 5. Still, just like the last one. So if I know this, and if I know this, I can graph this so easily. I'm going to come over here to 0, 5. There's the point 0, 5. And I'm going to use my rate triangle. And that rate triangle is created by starting at this point and using this slope. So the run is 4, so I go over 4, left to right, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I go down 3, 1, 2, 3. And look at that. That takes me to the next point that's on my line. So those 2 points are on my line. Now that's enough to be able to graph a line, except we make mistakes. These are pretty big points. This is a pretty big ruler. Things get slanted a little bit. Things can get out of hand. So it's always best to come up with the third one. So we're going to do the rate triangle one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. See that? I have to estimate a little bit. And I'm going to come 1, 2, 3 down. So right about here. So it's going to look like this. That is my line. That has the equation y equals negative 3 over 4x plus 5. And noticing I have to label my line. And this is something that I really find funny. A lot of you forget to put the x in. A lot of you stop putting the x in when you go to talk about this line. You try to talk about it like this. You try to say that this line is y equals negative 3 over 4 plus 5. And you forget about the x, and I have no idea why. You need the x there. That's a place to put in all the different x values. So make sure that you know that you have to have the x, just like you have to have the y. Okay? And you know what? I'm done. There's nothing left to talk about. I went over 4, I went down 3. There's my rate triangle from grade 9. and we're doing things in a grade 10 fashion, and we're so smart now. Isn't that great? I'm so impressed. I'll pause there and I'll come back in a minute.